Rachel, welcome to Alive and Thriving. Rachel and I just recorded a podcast episode for Rachel's podcast, Leading from Within. And she is such a phenomenal woman. I am so excited for you to get to know Rachel. I have introduced you a little bit at the introduction. Just quickly, Rachel and I met each other at the beginning of this year. We are both manifesting generators, and we met in a manifesting generator mastermind.
The best.
and have continued on our professional learning together, and it has just been so amazing. Rachel, and I know you're going to talk about this in our episode today, so I don't want to give too much away, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, which I'm really good at doing, by the way. But I have been privileged to witness Rachel's journey just from January, and to talk about quantum leaps, huge shifts. And I know that there is so much more to it than what I have seen. So I am so excited. If you are ready for a story of inspiration of what is possible for you in terms of life, business, and alignment, then keep listening. Now, Rachel, I did introduce you formally at the beginning in my introduction, but could you tell us a little bit more about who you are? Who is Rachel? How did you get to where you are now? All the things.
Thank you so much, Jess. First of all, I'm so honored to be a guest on your podcast. I mean, your work and all that you do, I admire you so much for, the work you do with women. I see you deeply in that way. So thank you for having me. I want to say that. And what an honor it is as a fellow MG to be here chatting with you today. Yes. So in terms of a little intro, so I live in Melbourne with my husband and my little young family. I have a 4-year-old, almost 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, 2 daughters. I am a manifesting generator, a 6-2 Mani-Gen. And I am a business coach and a self-empowerment mentor. And so what that means is that I work specifically with female entrepreneurs to really help them and empower them to lead themselves bravely and to really unleash their power so that they can really unapologetically stop living from the shoulds and start grounding into their true sense of self so that they can build a business and a life that is, it can come into like true alignment and reflect who they are at their core. So empowered.
Goosebumps.
I mean, that's the goal, right? I mean, we want to be able to anchor into sustainability, and we want to build a business that we are deeply in love with, that is soul nourishing and feels like it can support our life rather than the other way around. And so that's the work that I do with my clients. I am 8 years actually in business, which sounds like a long time, but being a manifesting generator, I have done like 57 pivots along the way. Like, my gosh, it has not been a linear trajectory by any means, as this episode will show you. I actually started off my career as a teacher. I was a high school teacher. I used to teach English both in Melbourne and in Europe. But I left that career about 8 years ago and made my way slowly into the online space actually started off in the world of blogging. I had like a travel blog back when I was living in Europe. So I was a travel writer blogging. I was learning how to monetize my blog. I had a lot of the influencer vibes going along back then, which was kind of hilarious. So I was working with brands, sponsorships, writing for big international magazines as well. Ended up quitting my job and moving into that space full time, and just gradually following my curiosity and my interests, ending up in the online coaching space, the online education space, teaching people how to monetize blogs and create income from blogs, which gradually led me towards, educating around sales and marketing and all of those things, which, long story short, is kind of where I've ended up today. but now teaching from a place of self-leadership and self-empowerment with a business lens. So a little bit
Yes.
about me.
Wow. I love that you mentioned all the pivoting. That's only something that I've learned recently to embrace. Prior to understanding my energy type, and that this is actually quite normal for manifesting generators to pivot. I had a story that I was flaky, couldn't see things through. I'd start something and not finish it. And it was something that used to actually bring me quite a lot of shame and a lot of guilt over. So I love hearing that you are stepping into that, and owning that. I've pivoted here, I've pivoted there, but look where it has gotten you to today. So your business now, obviously, because of the pivots, yes, doesn't look the same way that it used to. But in terms of that business lens and how you show up in your business and how you operate, I'm going to assume that doesn't look the way that it used to either. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey from where you were and how you have now created a business that is so aligned with who you are and how you operate?
Yeah, I mean, this year has been such a huge year of unlearning for me. As Jess mentioned earlier, this year we met in a human design mentorship container. And so this year has very much been around a lot of learning around who I am, who I am as a person, what I'm uniquely suited to do, what my energy is truly like, and grounding into a place of alignment with that. And it was kind of through a learning around this and a lot of realizations I had around this that actually led me to realize how misaligned I had become without even realizing it, because I had created a business that I thought on paper was really reflective of me as a Manny Gen. In terms of it was really varied. I had a lot of different offerings. I was doing new things all the time. I was creating all the time. Like I would create a lot of different offers. Every month I was creating new offers. Right.
I'm a little exposed.
But here I was thinking like, oh, I'm so embodied in my design because this is just what being a Manny Gen is like. And I felt, grounded. I felt aligned. But what I kind of came to the understanding of was that actually what I had created was significantly misaligned. And I'll kind of take you through why that was. But I'll give you a little bit of a snapshot as to what my business used to look like, I guess, start of this year, late last year. So I'd created a business that was still based around, business strategy, marketing, sales, launching, all of those things. But my business was really characterized by, like, as I said, a lot of different offers. They were all short-term, well, like most of them, 90% of them were very short-term offers, low-ticket offers, mid-ticket offers. I had one high-ticket offer, my one-to-one coaching, but I had a lot of resistance around selling that offer. I'll talk about why that is in a little bit, but I was creating a lot of low ticket, mid ticket all of the time. I also had a membership. I had a low ticket email marketing membership where I was specifically talking around email marketing strategy. And I was over here thinking like, oh, it's so great because I can talk about this specific thing. I've got an offer just about email marketing. And then I've got this other offer around like launching. And then I've got this other one around mindset, blah, blah, blah. But all of my programs were really characterized by teaching, like front-facing teaching style offers where I was very focused on like quite a narrow concept and I was teaching that concept. Very little coaching. If there was space for coaching inside the program, it was really like a rushed, like 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the session. So that was interesting. And I think I had, there's a reason why I had built a business like that, a couple of reasons. First of all, I was quite a new mum. So I had how old were my kids back then? I reckon they were under 3. I think my oldest daughter was 3 and I just had another baby. So I had the story around, I don't have much time. And so therefore, short-term offers felt doable. Whereas there wasn't that much, I had to kind of commit to them. I didn't have much capacity. It was like short, sharp, create it, teach it, move on. It felt doable for me. Also the fact that I'd created like primarily teaching style programs instead of coaching. I mean, I come from a teaching background where this was literally like my thing. So that just kind of was my go-to, I guess. So there are a couple of the reasons why I had grounded into that, but also I was very much in a place, very conscious of everything I didn't know in business, because we all start our businesses, most of us not really with a business background, and we're kind of figuring it out as we go. We're learning everything. We're learning all the marketing. We're learning all of the sales strategies. But we're very much intensely aware of everything we don't know. And so we're constantly looking outside of ourselves at other coaches, other mentors, other business owners who are further along on the path, who seem to have it all figured out because they have successful businesses. And we're kind of doing it, watching what kind of offers they're creating, the style of the offers, the way they're delivering their offers, the way they're doing their marketing, their funnels, everything.
Yeah.
And we're kind of very aware of it, all of the gaps that we have that they seem not to have. And for me, I have an undefined head in human design. We're going to talk about a lot about human design.
I have an
for anyone
head
listening
as well.
Oh, you do?
That. Yeah, I do. Yes.
Yeah, you feel this.
I do.
Yeah. And so for anyone who's not sure about what that kind of represents, the high expression of an undefined head center is very much someone who's very receptive, very kind of open-minded, very flexible in their thinking, who can see things from varied perspectives. But the low expression is where we're very much influenced by what other people are doing, what other people are telling us. Social media is filled with coaches on the internet saying we need to do things a specific way, and that's the way to do them. And if you've got an undefined head and you're in like the lower expression, and we've got conditioning, like this is an energy center that is very vulnerable to conditioning. We're susceptible to being influenced by that quite significantly. And so I found that in myself. And so very much kind of locked onto the very successful multi-6-figure, even 7-figure business owners who were telling me to do something a specific way. And I fell into this kind of way of being where I was in like replication. I was trying to mimic in a way what was successful, or trying to use that as a way to unlock my path to success, because it's like, well, I'll just do what they're doing and that's the key, right? And so I'd created this business that, I guess on paper, a lot of the offer styles were like a similar. I had like a big product suite, a lot of like different ways people could work with me. The way I was delivering those offers was, I don't know, similar to what other people were doing, but all of it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
All of it felt really fragile. I was intensely aware still of everything I didn't know. It wasn't from a place of grounded authenticity.
Yeah.
I was very much in an energy of shoulds, like, oh, I should just be doing it this way because this is just the successful way you do things. Yeah. So that was kind of like the way my business looked. it didn't feel good. And I wasn't tuned into the clues at all at that point.
So yeah, oh, there's so much in all of that. I hear that so often with a lot of clients that I work with is that what we call it comparisonitis, staying in your own lane. For us, it's coming from a space of having that undefined head center. So that lower aspect being that we are quite easily susceptible to what others are doing and believing that we should be doing that so that we can therefore achieve what they are achieving. And
Yeah.
I think, no matter how long you've been in business, it can be really easy to step into that space as well. And then you do suddenly end up with all of these things that you think you should have been doing, but they're not authentically the way that you need to be showing up to honor your energy, to honor even your values, what your business needs, what your clients need. So those cookie cutter strategies are not always the best
Yeah.
way to go.
Yeah.
When you said that you were going along about this for a while and you built your business, you had multiple offers. I felt that on every single level until the beginning of this year. I was the same and I was still wanting to create more. Every time I had a response, I was like, oh yeah, I could do this and I could do this container and I'll do one on anxiety and I'll do one on stress and I'll do one on mindset and I'll do one on this and one on self-love and one on and it just went, it was, oh my God. Multiple memberships. I'll do this app and this membership and this and this and it all
Yeah.
comes from such such an inspired place, but
Mm.
it is just not always practical. Lots of low ticket offers, lots of short-term containers as well. Something that when you were talking about short-term containers and that story of not having the time with the young children, which I also get, like they do take a lot of time, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But something that popped into my head when you were saying that was I thought all these short-term containers, because I would do the same thing and low ticket offers, you still have to market them. So even though
Mm.
that showing up to the container or creating the teaching resources and showing up for the coaching might be short term, but to get people in is still a long-term strategy that you have to continue to use your sacral for over and over and over
Yeah.
again. So what sort of clues did you start having? What did you start to notice? And why did you start to realize? How did you start to realize that you had actually built a business that wasn't as aligned as what you initially thought?
It was interesting because I was as I mentioned earlier, I was experiencing a lot of feelings in
Mm.
terms of like heaviness, resistance,
Yeah.
procrastination for a long time, but I would never pay attention to any of it. I wasn't in the state of mind. I wasn't open to exploring them. I was just solely fixated on strategy, which I think so many people in business are. I
Yeah.
don't think that's unique. I think you kind of get to a point eventually, though, where you're just like, living this way just doesn't feel good. Like, what's wrong? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like something, happened where I completely burnt out or whatever. I mean, I was pretty exhausted. I was, got to a state where I was like very anxious. I was just like running on adrenaline all the time. I was having problems sleeping. I remember we were talking about this in our last podcast episode, actually, that I was the night before I was delivering a sales webinar and I just had this insomnia. I couldn't get to sleep till 4 a.m. because I was like thinking about it, thinking of like, I don't know. I just didn't trust myself. I wasn't it wasn't authentic. I was coming from a place of like, this is what I should be doing. Like, this is the flow of the webinar. Like, I should be following this pathway. And I don't know, just like not a lot of authenticity or trust in myself. I was very much like not embodied. I'm talking about all of these programs making business feel easy for you, you know, but business didn't feel ezy for me. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
yes. That embodiment shift. Oh, as soon as you said that, that is
Mm.
something that I hear so, so often is people saying, this is what I'm selling, or this is what I'm doing. And I went through an experience of this similar as well, where I had done a lot of deep healing, particularly around anxiety and a lot of past traumas and things that were keeping that alive for me. And then I was feeling really good and I was working with clients with their anxiety. But then I had something happen in my personal life. And I mean, it was really significant. My best friend passed away. Of course, I'm going to have grief and anxiety. But I had this story in my head for a few weeks. So it was like, they're going to judge you because you are helping them with anxiety, but you're anxious. And so I know it's like different industry, but it's that you feel like you're misaligned because you feel like you're showing up doing something that, you know, you're telling someone to do something that you're not doing yourself, or you sort of realize that you believed that you were to a certain extent. For me, it was a story I had to let go of because I had to let myself be human. But I have experienced that in other aspects of my business as well, where it's like I'm telling people to tap daily, but am I at the moment? Or, and when you start to embody that, when you actually start to show up as that leader, as that you've got a line 6, don't you? As that role model. When you start to show up as that role model and that leader and that fully embodied version of what you are leading from within. There we go. How's that for a good full circle? From what you are leading from within, that is a huge energetic shift because you are operating from a space of energetic alignment.
Yeah.
So your body was really trying to get your attention. And I know you said that you didn't get to burnout as such, but when I hear anxiety, when I hear I'm not sleeping, when I hear the constant analysis of the thoughts of what you're doing, so the worry and the anticipation and the maybe, I don't know, obsessive planning over things, not trusting yourself, to me, that is just a step before.
Yeah.
Truly.
Truly. Yeah. And I was very much just like in this state of like anxious autopilot. And it was through learning about the modality of human design and astrology as well that really just kind of like snapped me out of it. And it's not like it dawned on me suddenly that I'd created this terrible business, because it wasn't. It was like, a successful business. I was helping a lot of people. But and I I was like genuinely excited to create everything. Like, as you said earlier, like I never had this shortage of ideas and inspiration. I always had this response to create because I was excited. But also what you said earlier was the energy that goes into all of those things. And I wasn't fully there with all of that energy. I didn't take the time to flesh out everything properly. I didn't really ground, in as much time as I needed to consider, deeply the transformation in every offer and who it was going to help. It was very much short-term energy and not any really refinement of what I was doing, because in my mind I was just like, well, I'm a managen, like I'm already like 10 steps ahead. I don't want to go back and refine. I'm not excited about that anymore. And it was almost like that was an excuse for me. I'd found myself in this energy of impulsiveness. And telling myself the story, well, like, but I'm aligned. I'm just following my response. I've got to just follow where my response is taking me,
Yes.
So I'd got to myself to a place where I didn't have a lot of recurring monthly revenue. Because everything was short term. So I was like having to rely on my sacral response to create my income every single month. Because I was essentially starting from zero every month, because all of my offers were around 4 weeks or less in time. So they weren't these long payment plans or these high ticket offers. And there was like a pressure with that, being like, well, what am I going to create this month? And I had ideas, but over time, it's not very sustainable to rely on that sacral response for your income, to rely on your creativity for your income, because
No,
it's going to get tired.
Absolutely. And then when you are tired, you have that battle and that frustration and all of those not self themes too, because you feel like I should be creating this, or I need the income, I need to be earning money, but you literally don't have that creative energy within you at that moment because your sacral needs a break.
And also
it needs
I'm
a
a line.
rest.
Yeah. And I'm a line 2. I'm a 6-2 in human design. So line 2 is the hermit. The archetype is the hermit. So this is a part of myself where I like, line 2 is all about being a natural as well, like being so embodied in your gifts, but you're such a natural at them that you don't necessarily see what they are. But periodically needing to retreat inward, not wanting to be visible, but retreat, build a little cocoon around yourself and like rest so that you can gain perspective, gain wisdom, and evolve and come out the other side with all of that wisdom to share. And with the business that I'd built, there was no chance that I was ever going to allow myself to become my hermit that I need to become, because that felt really unsafe to stop, you know?
Yeah, I can imagine. Can you tell me what sort of process did you have to go through, or what support did you get, or how did you move from realizing that you were in this place of misalignment? So you'd been ignoring the signs from your body. What made you realize, okay, actually, maybe I'm not as aligned as I thought? And then what process did you start to go through to move forward?
Yeah. So it was pretty shocking when I realized, and it really came from a place of, first and foremost, human design, and really unpacking my human design chart.
Yeah.
So actually seeing the proof of what my energy is like and what I'm here to do, what I'm naturally gifted at, what my strengths are, and really kind of realizing like, oh, okay, this is really incongruent with everything I've built. So I can take you through some elements of my chart and kind of talk to how it is misaligned. So firstly, with my chart, with a human design chart, you've got the arrows at the top. Each of the arrows are either left facing or right facing. So with my chart, 3 out of my 4 arrows are right facing. And so when they're right facing is all around more of like the feminine, flowy energy. It's like very receptive, very open, whereas the left is more detail oriented, strategy oriented. And so majority of mine are right facing. So very, very kind of big picture. Yet I'd built a business that was very narrowly focused on strategy,
Yeah. Yeah. That I can see why that would cause some misalignment.
Yeah. So teaching people how to execute strategy in a very masculine way. So that was one thing. I was like, oh, okay, might be a little problem there.
Yeah.
In terms of marketing as well, as a Manigen, you're a Manigen. So we've got the defined throat center. So really powerful communicators, that consistent energy and being able to share and communicate reliably. Yet my entire marketing strategy was based around Instagram. I didn't have anything long form, even though I had a history of being a blogger. I didn't have a blog as part of my new business. I didn't have a podcast at that time. This podcast that I have now is only 3 months old. Actually, it's really new, but I was relying on all my marketing around Instagram and those little 90-second Instagram reels and like Instagram stories. So really could not get my message communicated in a way that was going to be effective at all. I'm someone that needs to have space for the depth to really come through.
Yeah.
I'm really, as well, my astrology, I've got a lot of water signs, so very emotionally deep. I've got a lot of Pisces placements actually, so very intuitive. So I need like the space to communicate. So problem with my marketing as well with my sacral, as I mentioned earlier, kind of like not grounded into a healthy expression of that sacral energy, literally following everything that lit me up without considering, like, do I actually need to follow through with every response then and there, or can I perhaps like sit with it and just feel it out and come back to it? Like, not everything is a now thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because you believe it's a now thing.
Oh yeah.
Because it feels like it should be a now thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I also have, I don't know about yours, Jess, but I've got a defined spleen.
Yeah, I do
in
too.
my chart. You do.
My only open centers are the head and the ajna. That's all. Everything else is defined for me.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so I've got my defined spleen, and with my channels, I've got 7 channels actually, which is a lot. 6 of the 7 are individual circuitry, and of those, 4 are this special type of circuitry called integration circuitry, which is specifically related to intuition.
Okay.
So with my defined spleen and with all of this integration circuitry, a lot of intuitive energy. Yeah. And so I'm someone that can really hear what's not being said, that can pick up on all the cues, like sitting underneath the words. And so I need to have offers where I can hear people speak. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I need to be having conversations with people. But I built a business that didn't really allow for that. I had containers that didn't facilitate those kinds of conversations. So 0 opportunity for those gifts to really shine through.
Yeah. Did you have any resistance to, so you've come to this realization that, you know, that you have these gifts that aren't able to shine through because the containers that you've created don't allow for this kind of interaction and this kind of way of being. But when it came to reshifting, because I know I had some resistance to letting go of things that were just even things that were just ideas. I was like, I don't want to I'm not letting that go. Did you find resistance? You've spent all this time building up these offers that feel so good because we've had a sacral response to do so. So it must be the right thing to do.
Yeah, it was an interesting kind of push-pull that was going on, because in some ways, yes, I did, but in other ways, like, not at all. I'll tell you what I mean. So, yes, I had resistance in terms of my email marketing membership that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Even though the topic was not aligned, even though I was really good at email marketing, it was not an aligned offer for my business. However, this email marketing membership was 15 months old by that point in time. So it was my longest ever offer. And as I said earlier, like, majority of my offers in my business were very short term, except this and except my one-to-one. So I kind of had this like resistance to letting that go, because it was almost like proof that I could do something long term. And I was like,
yes.
And also I'd spent so much time building it out. It was like this entire course. It had so many like done for you templates, so many things. I actually considered whether I wanted to just sell it as like a retirement sale and just like, you know, you can purchase it as like a one-off program, but it just felt so unaligned by that point that I didn't want to invest the energy. But it was a loving release of the offer. I had to kind of come back to the truth of like, is this aligned? Is this going to serve me? Am I excited about this? Is this a reflection of who I am? No. Okay. Like, that's That's the
Yeah.
decision.
I love that. A loving release. It's that compassion and gratitude piece, isn't it? Thank you for getting me to where I am now.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything that I have learned and taken from you. And then permission to pivot.
Yeah.
Permission to pivot, permission to change your mind and create something that is aligned with where you are at now,
Yeah. And
as well as with who you are.
it was interesting though, because there was, while I was coming at it all from a place of very grounded self-trust in like, the proof is in the pudding. Like it's literally written in the stars that I'm made for this
I love that.
particular
It
path,
is literally written in the stars that
literally.
if you can't trust that, then what can, oh my
I
goodness.
know. I was just like, there's no other way.
Yeah.
And I was at a unique point in my life where I had done a lot of healing work. I was very empowered.
Yeah.
I was in quite a neutral state as well. I was coming at it from a very much curiosity
Yeah.
perspective, being
Yeah.
like, ooh, like this is all teaching me something, which
Yeah.
my line 6 loves as well, because I'm like so with a line 6, there's 3 distinct phases in your life. And your first 30 years, you're very much in a trial and error, try it all on phase, lots of experimenting, lots of failing. But you're kind of just seeing what sticks. And then after your first 30 years, you go up on the roof for a lot of introspection, a lot of deconditioning, a lot of healing around your first 30 years, a lot of integrating. And then after you're 50, you kind of fully come back down from the roof to share all of your wisdom, and you're like that wise old sage. And so
The journey is just beginning.
Yeah, it's just beginning, but I was in that second phase. So I was kind of ready to look at all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it felt right to let it go.
So you let go of, correct me if I'm wrong, around 90% of your office.
I did 90%. So I let go of everything. So it was a loving release of everything, piece by piece by piece, as I realized what was no longer serving me.
Yeah.
And it was a process that kind of occurred over many months. I went into my little line 2 hermit phase for a little while there. There was about a month where I completely disappeared off social media. I didn't want to be visible at all. I didn't want to be in the public eye. It was very internal. There was a lot of journaling, a lot of meditating, a lot of introspection. A lot of seeing of things, a lot of healing a lot of stuff had come up from my unconscious and from my early childhood that I was seeing from the first time as well, that I was processing.
I love
which was
that
all
that's
part
come
of
up
it.
when you're ready to see it. That's something I talk about all the time, is that it's our layers, and these things are going to come up only when they're ready for you to release it.
Yeah.
And so you've come into this place where you're in misalignment. And I truly believe from what you're saying that a part of that misalignment is also your subconscious saying, and now you're ready to deal with and heal and release these things. And once you can do that, then you'll be able to move forward.
Yeah, it was really an invitation. And that's kind of how I see everything. It's like some people could look at what I've gone through this year as being like, oh my God, like that's terrible. Like, or like how difficult to do that. But for me, it's just been like, what a gift, like what an invitation to come onto my soul path. You know, it's like an invitation. Am I going to take it? It's like, yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it now.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been a real gift.
I love that. So what steps, I guess, practically as well as internally, did you have to take in order to reconfigure this whole new business model, this whole new business?
Yeah. So it was, the first part of it was very private. So as I said, I kind of like went internal. I was doing a lot of unpacking, a lot of deconditioning, a lot of kind of working through just like, okay, what does this mean? Like what what do I need to let go of to kind of come back to almost like a cleaner, energetic plane, you know?
Yeah.
Because everything had got so murky and muddled. And so that was the first part of it. And then I really grounded and started from the basics again.
Yeah.
So working from the perspective of like, I'm a manager, I can't be niched. I don't want to niche.
Yeah.
Like, let's think bigger picture. Like, let's, get into alignment with my design and my, my three arrows facing right. I'm receptive. I'm big picture. I'm visionary. Like, let's ground into a bigger movement. Yeah. And so I created a bigger umbrella movement for my business. So my offers can kind of like become their own niches underneath that. Yeah. I really looked at my content and my content pillars and kind of grounding into like, what do I actually want to be talking about in relation to this movement, and how can all of my content kind of align to that? It was also when I started to consider, bringing in a podcast, and, that is so in alignment with my strengths and really lets them shine. And so that was a process of, launching a podcast, which took some time. But after I had kind of sat with like, I'm discovering myself for the first time, because that's what it felt like. It was real. That in itself was really exciting. And to my husband, I was like, oh, like I'm learning this. Isn't this cool? And he's looking at me like I'm crazy. But I began to take my audience on the journey with me.
Yeah.
And that's a very line 6 kind of thing to do, because we're literally designed to be the role model, being an embodied, living and breathing example to our audience. And so I felt it was really important, if I'm talking about alignment and coming into alignment, I need to actually share what does that look like? Yeah. And it was really powerful for me to be vulnerable and to really share what's been going on, and to show my audience how courageous I am being, because it does take a lot of courage to be able to let go of so much. Yeah. And I had a conversation with someone else earlier this week, and she asked me on a podcast, actually, it was another interview. She was like, how did you feel about sharing, the behind the scenes as you were going through this? Did you worry that you were going to lose trust with your audience? Did you worry about how they were going to perceive you? And my answer was just like a resounding like, no, like it did not even come into mind that I would be seen as untrustworthy when I'm sharing this, because I think vulnerability creates relatability. And I'm literally making all of my decisions from such a grounded place of self-understanding and self-trust. And I'm so embodied in what I'm doing that in itself builds trust. Yes. You know what I mean?
I absolutely do. I share that line 6. And so I completely resonate with what you're saying. And it's something that I have really, really embodied in terms of how I've shown up for my audience as well, in sharing not only the end transformation, but taking them through the journey with me. And then even circling back to, what I was talking about before, having anxiety, but can I help people with things? What if they judge me? All those thoughts. I had similar thoughts to that question that person asked you at first. But this year, since better understanding my line 6 and how that influences the way that I am and who I am meant to, what I'm meant to be doing, and how I'm meant to be, that thought doesn't even come into mind anymore either. And so I'm so happy to say, this is what I'm experiencing and this is how I'm overcoming it, and bring people on that journey with me. And so I completely resonate with everything that you are saying there, because it really really shows just how human you are as well. Like it's full permission to be able to be. I think we turn up on social media in particular and we see so many highlight reels of someone's business, of how they turn up, of their lives, of their relationships. We see the highlight reels and we forget so easily, because we know we have our own pains and our own challenges, that those people do too, because they're not choosing to share it, and that's fine for them. But it's also so easily can make your audience feel like you are something other than somebody having a human experience.
Yeah.
And so for you to be able to show up in that vulnerable space and take them through this journey of your alignment, and take them through why and how you've gotten to this space, and share this really vulnerable story, that is only going to help people to connect in even more and feel so seen as well. And also, even in some ways, give them permission to step into their authenticity, because you're still here. You've done it, and you didn't, nothing bad happened. You didn't disappear.
Exactly.
You worked through 4 key areas, I believe, to come into alignment. Could you share with us what these are?
Yeah. And so this is actually the methodology that I teach in my it's through the lens through which I work with my private clients, actually. So I call it my beam methodology, like a beam of light, like a beam of clarity. So there are 4 areas. So each kind of letter stands for a different area. So the first one is beliefs. This was really important for me to look at what kind of beliefs I was operating from unconsciously. That's a process to even be able to see those. Because if you attempt, if you know your human design and you're building offers and a business in alignment with that, if there are beliefs kind of hidden underneath the surface around business, money, self-worth, like authenticity, like self-expression, all of that stuff that you can't see, then you're still going to be building something that is not a full expression of yourself and your potential. And so that was such a key part of it. So I actually was able to uncover quite a key belief unconsciously around approval, what approval actually looked like for me in my unconscious mind, that was cemented in my childhood. And so I was brought up in a very loving childhood. It was lovely, like mum and dad. But I was a child who, it was like not really safe to be emotionally expressed fully. It was not safe to be seen and heard to my fullest expression, in the sense of when there was a disagreement with my parents, particularly my dad, that disagreement, or me disagreeing with him, equated not respecting him. And so there was a lot of kind of shame or guilt put on me for having a different opinion. And so there was also there was just like a sense in my childhood where I felt very powerless. And when I was kind of like, and this is very like subtle and unconscious, but when I was, quiet and, I don't know, clean and like doing the right thing and not, definitely not grounded in my full bold expression, that was approved. And so I kind of had it in my mind that being small and being, not fully expressed equaled approval. And so unconsciously I was resisting building out a business that was, highly lucrative, that had, really meaty, deep, high ticket offers that required a high investment from people, because to me, that equated like being incredibly powerful, incredibly confident and bold and self-expressed. And that to me meant being unsafe. So there was a lot I had to kind of, first of all, see, but then heal and transcend and integrate in relation to that. so that I could confidently move forward with creating high ticket, which is what I'm literally made to do. Like, I'm made to be selling high ticket. I'm only meant to really be working with people in a very intimate capacity where we can have conversations and be like, have coaching. But in order to do that, I need to kind of know that I'm worthy to do that.
Absolutely.
So that was a really key step, the belief stuff.
Beliefs, yeah.
Then I have energy. So energy is another pillar that I work with. And in terms of energetic alignment with business, mainly coming at it from the perspective of like values and priorities and the season of life we're in, because I'm a mum of little kids, like so are you.
Yeah.
It's really important for me to have a business that allows me to be present, that's really flexible, that like I only want to be working the hours like 10 to 3 max, 3 days a week, you know, because I want to be there for school pickup and drop off every morning. I don't want to be working in the evenings. I want to have a really spacious and flexible working day so that when the kids are home sick or when no one slept during the night, then it's not like the end of the world.
Yeah.
So that was really important, that I kind of brought my schedule in alignment with that value, and also so that I could harness my own energetic rhythm and peaks, because I'm someone that works really effectively in the mornings. For example, my husband, on the other hand, is like a night owl and does all his work in the evening, but when my brain is mush. So aligning my work schedule to really be able to maximize those hours so I get the best return on investment for my time and my energy.
Absolutely.
And then in terms of alignment, so really being grounded in who I am, like actually knowing what my strengths are, what my like my intuition, knowing how to tap into my intuition. As I said earlier, I am someone who's like really intuitive, but if I didn't believe that I was, then I wouldn't be able to harness it. I wouldn't know how to listen to it. So really understanding that about myself and working to really kind of learn how to use those gifts as well, because I was very disconnected at one point. And then the mindset piece is really around, you know, the growth mindset, coming to business from a place of neutrality, and learning how to build that inner confidence in yourself that you can, you know, do the hard things, and that resilience. So they're kind of like the 4 angles I specifically worked on internally that I now bring to all of my work with my clients.
Oh, I love that. So how can people work with you? How do you, I know obviously in an intimate container. So tell us more though, where can we find you and how people can work with you?
Yes. So you can find me, you can come just hang out with me on Instagram. That's my only social media platform actually. So Instagram, it's just Rachel_Bale_. Or the podcast. So I've got my beautiful podcast now. It's called Leading from Within. And in terms of working with me, there's only one way you can work with me now, which is my my one-to-one offer, because that just feels like the only offer that is in alignment with my strengths and who I am. So I offer either a 3-month or a 6-month intimate high proximity coaching container. And that is where we really anchor your business in true alignment with your strengths, your natural energy, your season of life, so that you can reclaim your time, your power, and your energy. And that's really for the female entrepreneur who's desiring to build a profitable business, but from a place of peace and ease, so that it can all be supportive and reflective of her natural life. So that's the only way you can work with me. I do have plans in the future to introduce an intimate group container as well, but I'm still very much not acting on that sacral response yet. I'm incubating on that because that is going to be birthed when it's time.
When
Yes.
it's time. I love that. And I think anybody who steps, I mean, if you just even take anything of what is possible for you, listening to Rachel's journey from a business of complete misalignment, tinkering on burnout, being in a space that she thought was right, but she was living in a world of shoulds, and to now with this one offer that is so aligned, that is literally written in the stars that this is what she is here to do. And
Yeah.
so sorry, I just love that. I love that saying so much. And it just really kind of anchored me in for a moment too around my own design. I was like, yes, like any moments you have these little self-doubts, it's like,
Yeah.
yes, it is written in the stars. This is what I'm here to
Yeah.
do. This is how I'm here to show up. But if you can take away, Rachel is creating a life by design. She is working ideally 10 till 3 around her children, around her season of life in honor of her energy. And if you step into her container, then you are going to take that away as well for yourself. So, if you take away anything from this episode around what is possible for you, oh, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank
Thanks,
you so much for
Jess.
sharing everything with me today and with our listeners.
It's been such an honor. Thank you. I've loved every minute. Thank you for having me.
Anytime.